Well, security is tight in Indian-administered Kashmir as people vote in the second round of regional elections there. Now, it's the first such election in a decade, and it's also the first since India's nationalist Hindu government stripped the Muslim-majority region of its semi-autonomous status. Now, many people in Kashmir are casting their ballots for the very first time. Voters in the regional capital, Srinagar, told DW's Adil Bhatt what's at stake for them in this election.
Basirat is determined to exercise her democratic right. She is 28 years old, but will be casting her vote for the very first time. She lives in Jammu and Kashmir's biggest city, Srinagar, where heavy security is part of everyday life. Basirat and her family boycotted past elections to protest India's heavy-handed rule, she tells us. But now she's supporting Kashmir's National Conference, one of the main regional political parties here, hoping for change.
Our voices have been silenced here, and we can't speak freely. Anyone who speaks out gets arrested, and their career and life are ruined. The state has taken away our voice, but through voting, we want to make ourselves heard. Now, we'll use our vote as a form of protest to fight for our democratic rights. We won't let our vote go to waste anymore.
At this election rally, Basirat is not the only one expressing her anger about the scrapping of Kashmir's semi-autonomous status by the government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2019. It has been under Delhi's control ever since. Although it is not on the ballot, the restoration of statehood and autonomy is at the heart of this election. And Salman Sagar, one of the candidates of the National Conference Party, is promising to lead the effort.
Our vision is development. Our vision is addressing unemployment. But at the same time, our prime focus will be to restore what has been taken from us. That is the spatial status. Every Kashmiri is keeping an eye on restoring their lost rights. They see this election as an investment for their future generations.
The divided Himalayan region of Kashmir has been a flashpoint between India and Pakistan, and the scene of an armed insurgency since the late 1980s. It has claimed the lives of tens of thousands of people. Lately, there has again been a significant rise in militancy, which India blames on Pakistan. Yet, Prime Minister Modi's ruling Hindu nationalist BJP sees this year's high voter turnout as proof of a thriving democracy. Ejaz Hussain is the poster boy of the BJP in Srinagar, but his rallies have attracted only modest crowds. In this Muslim-majority region, most people view the BJP as party for Hindus only and blame it for the loss of Kashmir's autonomy. But Hussain disagrees.
The situation in Kashmir is much better now. You can see election campaigns happening without fear. In the past, no one was willing to hold rallies like this. But thanks to Modi, peace has been restored. Schools are open, businesses are thriving, and tourists are visiting in large numbers.
Here in downtown Srinagar, which has been at the heart of the insurgency against Indian rule, Basirat is eagerly anticipating the outcome of her first ever vote. She grew up here and she wants to stay here.
After the election, we want to see peace return to Kashmir. We want to see Kashmiri youth get employed and flourish, have better careers, and move forward in life.
At home, she joins her family in watching the election coverage. She hopes that her first vote will be a small step in ending decades-long suppression and give back a voice to Kashmiris who, she says, have too long been silenced.
Well, our correspondent Adil Bhatt, who filed that report, he joins me now from Srinagar. Adil, there's been a fairly high turnout in this election so far. Talk to me about the significance of these numbers.
Brent, I'm currently standing outside the polling station in capital city Srinagar. In the last 2 hours, we've seen thousands of people casting their votes across the different polling stations. Well, now we're looking for possibility of record voter turnout today also. The first phase of data tells us that voting percentage already crossed 60% in the first phase already. And now, in the past elections, if you see the voting percentage in Kashmir has been really low. But what is happening in Kashmir this time is unprecedented. The Valley has never seen such voter participation in local assembly elections ever before. And you have to remember that this is the first election in 10 years. So we spoke with people, and firstly, people in Kashmir see this vote as an exercise of a voice or opinion, they say. And it has changed that people in Kashmir who believed earlier that the election would mean, voting would mean legitimizing India rule. Now this has changed, and people say that this voting is kind of as an expression of anger or the Kashmir's lost autonomy in 2019. Some see it as an exercise of freedom because all other kinds of freedoms are suppressed here, they tell us also. And there is one section, Brent, who still see voting as futile exercise, and according to them, nothing is going to change. So others also think that this election will get them, their local issue resolved, like high unemployment. And a lot of educated youth in Kashmir is sitting idle at home, and there are no jobs. So for them, this election is a hope that many things may change. And we also spoke with some experts. They're telling us that the participation of Kashmir's voting this time, we're talking about the assembly elections here, can be seen as an expression of a political agency, especially among young youth who have experienced a decade of disconnect, deprivation, and sense of alienation. That's what they told us here.
And I want to pick up on this unprecedented nature of the election. This is the first time that Kashmiris are voting since India revoked Kashmir's special status 5 years ago. So what are people actually voting for?
Brent, in this year's election, there are actually many things at stake. That's why you see a large section of Kashmiri people voting this time. Kashmir's mainstream politicians and even people, they're coming together to fight for the full statehood. And they're also kind of fighting for the restoration of region's spatial status that was they say was scrapped by New Delhi in 2019. So this is the main issue here, and we have been attending different rallies across Srinagar, the capital city, and we saw politicians addressing rallies, telling voters that they will do everything to get the statehood back. Because many Kashmiris saw downgrading of the state into union territory as a humiliation. So there are some local politicians are promising that they will fight back for the spatial status also. Brian, when I was speaking people on the streets of Srinagar, what we heard, there was a one word we could often hear, that was the suffocation. And we did ask them, what do you mean by suffocation? They spoke about the political suffocation that they're witnessing, that they are witnessing here. They say if they ever post anything, they will get picked up by the police. And if they ever write anything critical, they will be put behind the bars. And they're just fighting. Okay. And for them, this vote is an expression or like a form of a protest for them. And they say they are hoping that they will speak freely after the elections.
Our correspondent Adil Bhatt reporting from Kashmir. Adil, thank you.
Joining us now from Delhi is Anuradha Bhasin. She is the managing editor of the Kashmir Times and is the author of a book which focuses on Kashmir after it lost its special status. Anuradha, welcome to DW. Kashmiris have distrusted elections conducted by the Indian state for decades now. What's so different about this one?
What is different is that in the last 5 years, they have not enjoyed any kind of enfranchisement. They have been deprived of their right to vote, the right to their representatives. There has been an absence of political voices. There has been an absence of civil society. There has been a complete silencing and muzzling of the media. And this is why that, the people feel that the only way that they can be now empowered is through the vote. So they are speaking through the vote, the kind of enthusiasm that you see at the polling booths, the high number of contestants, unprecedented it is in, the last 30 years. And that's primarily the main reason that people are giving voice to their pent-up feelings in the last 5 years through the vote.
You know, you talk about the circumstances over the last 5 years that have been so frustrating for residents, but at the end of the day, a government that gets elected in, if it's not the BJP, can it realistically be expected that things will change in the valley?
We can expect very minimal change whichever government comes to power, and that's because the nature of the legislature, whichever is elected to power, is not going to be the same as it was 6 years ago. Because the region was not only stripped of its semi-autonomy, it was also truncated into two union territories, one without a legislative assembly and the one with an elected legislative assembly, the elections for which are now ongoing. It's a union territory, and the union territory does not enjoy the same powers as a full-fledged state. So the powers of the legislative assembly have already been curbed because it's a union territory. Over and above this, there was a recent order which gave overarching powers of oversight to the lieutenant governor, who is the presidential head of the state nominated by New Delhi, which is the BJP government, and he or she will have the oversight powers over all the affairs of and decisions that the legislative assembly makes. So, whichever government comes to power, we don't see the assembly having much autonomy over even the administrative affairs that they used to enjoy earlier. Besides this, if it's a non-BJP government that comes to power, which is more likely, and looking at how the union government
Anuradha, I want to jump in to ask you one more question, focusing on the point you're making about the state no longer being a state but a union territory. I want you to quickly comment on something the regional parties have been claiming. They are fighting the elections, saying that they want to fight to regain the special status or even the statehood of Jammu and Kashmir. Is that realistic at all?
Going by the history of Jammu and Kashmir, it's not really realistic because whatever has been taken from Jammu and Kashmir has not been given back. However, I think that is the minimum democratic thing that the government can do is to restore the trust of the people. The minimum that they can do is to restore the statehood. I don't see a statehood being restored if any other non-BJP government comes to power at all.
Anuradha Bhasin, managing editor of the Kashmir Times in Delhi, thank you so much for your analysis.
Thank you.